let's get into what is going to be the beginning of the first of a 3-part series, because I need more than just one episode to explain to you how journalism has actually basically unalived itself. I gotta be careful about what words I use. Some of these platforms will ding the show and ding my reach if I use certain language. So how journalism killed itself. I have railed on and trashed journalism for nearly a decade. I want to make sure everyone understands this. I did not just come across this point today. I talked about why journalism is dying back in episode number 2016, literally 1,000 days ago. I started talking about this, and I've talked about it many other times since. And I've done this for good reason and for many reasons, many good reasons. Today and in the next 2 episodes, I'm going to explain exactly how journalism ended up killing itself, because journalism did not have some externality happen to it like we talked about in the previous episode. These were choices that the journalism industry made. There were some contributing factors, yes, I'll get into those, but they made some choices, they being the whole industry, and the people within it made choices that led to the situation that we see today, to where we do not trust the most mainstream media outlets. I don't really trust anyone just because they give themselves the title of journalist. Many of them are using that title very gratuitously because they're not doing any journalism whatsoever. So I want you to listen up and pay attention so that you better understand why anyone calling themselves a journalist or any platform calling itself doing journalism, you need to look at it very critically. Some of them are actually telling the truth, but most of them, 98% of them, are lying, and they're just using the title because it sounds like they're doing something that they're not actually doing. Let's get into it. Point number 1. Today's topic, once again, is how journalism killed itself. Let's first get clear on what journalism is designed to do. Journalism has one job. You ever hear that saying, you had one job to do, and it shows somebody messing up the one job that they had? Journalism is designed to achieve one job. You know what the one job is of journalism? Does anybody know? It starts with the letter T. The truth. The job of journalism is to get to the truth. That is the essence of journalism. Get to the truth. Whatever the truth may be, and wherever that truth may lead, the job of a journalist is to get to that truth. And if I was to just stop right there, and this wasn't a 3-part series, and this was just a little 4-minute YouTube short or Instagram video or TikTok, and I said that's the job of journalism, and I asked you the following question: name a platform that is doing this. Name a mainstream platform who they do their work, and you can tell that their actual job, what they're aiming to do, is get to the truth. Name one. Name a mainstream platform that does this. Name a mainstream television show that is doing this. Something on NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, MSNBC, CNN. Name something, name any show, any host on any of those platforms whose job is getting to the truth. Name one. I don't think you can name one. I can't name one. If there is one, please let me know who it is. That is the essence of journalism. I do believe there are some people who are trying to get to the truth, and some of them used to work on those mainstream platforms, but they have all of them left those mainstream platforms, whether they got fired or they quit, and started their own platforms because they could not pursue the truth while continuing to work for those platforms. And we're going to get into exactly why that is and exactly how that happened as we get into this series. The responsibility of journalism and the responsibility of anyone who dares to give themselves the title of journalist is to get to the truth. Nothing else. That is the priority. That is the steering wheel. Everyone's been in a car before, right? How many steering wheels are there in a car? Usually one. There could be 4, 10, 20 seats in the car, but there's one steering wheel, which means the steering wheel determines where the car goes, right? Not the passenger, not the people in the back, the steering wheel. So the steering wheel of journalism is the truth. Everything else is a passenger. Everybody understand my metaphor? So this is a title, this journalist title gets thrown around very flippantly these days. As I said, there are very few people actually doing the stated job of journalism. There are many people doing a whole bunch of influencing. They're not doing journalism, and they are not the same thing. So this is a definition and a description I want you to keep in mind as we go through this series. And I want you to weigh everything that I'm sharing with you against this definition, because this is why we don't have journalism. Because again, journalism means trying to get to the truth. And when you think about how many platforms are actually doing this. Again, think about it and tell me if you can come up with one. Next time you hear someone talking who dares use the word journalist or journalism, ask yourself, is this person actually doing it? Many of them are violating the term by even putting it on themselves because they are unqualified. And why this matters so much is because in addition to other things I'm going to share and the points here today, Journalism, ladies and gentlemen, does not have a side. There's no side to journalism. Journalism is not leaning left or leaning right. It is not Democrat or Republican. It is not even right or wrong. It is not positive or negative. It just is what it is, just like the truth. The truth is not positive. It is not negative. It is not Democrat. It is not Republican. It is not liberal. It is not conservative. It is not pro-life. It is not pro-choice. It just is what it is. The truth is just a thing. It has no meaning. And again, listen to who tells you the news these days, quote unquote, the news. I told you in episode 1474, stop listening to the news. One of the reasons is because of what I'm talking about here in this series. There's no more journalism, so you shouldn't listen to the news. The only side that a journalist has or that journalism has is the side of the truth. That's the only affiliation journalism has, is to the truth. Any journalist, their only affiliation, only responsibility is to figure out and let everyone know, here's the truth. I figured out the truth, here it is. Again, keep all of this in mind as we go through this series, and keep it in mind next time you hear the word, anyone have the audacity to even use the word journalism or even to call themselves a journalist. Again, maybe one out of, let's say 2 out of 100 might be telling you the truth. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how journalism killed itself. Number 2, let's talk about what went wrong. All right, so now we understand what journalism is. Let me tell you where the journalism industry that used to exist started to kill itself. All right, this is when it pulled the knife out off the shelf. Okay, social media became popular, and journalists started trying to compete. This is the first mistake that journalism made, is that it saw social media and it saw how much social media was drawing the attention and the eyeballs of the people that journalists used to serve, and they were losing market share to social media. And they decided, okay, well, if we're going to compete with social media, actually, they decided to compete with social media. And that was the first mistake that they made. First mistake was, let's try to fix this. Ladies and gentlemen, what's the first rule of being in a hole? Stop digging. As soon as journalists realized that they were competing with social media, or as soon as they decided, I keep saying realize, as soon as they decided that they should compete with social media, they were putting themselves into a hole that would only get deeper, and it's continued to get deeper. They're still in a hole right now, and they're still digging. If I had to summarize all of the death of journalism into one sentence, it'd be what I just told you. Social media became popular, and the journalism industry tried to compete against social media, which was a bad idea. It's just as bad an idea of, I did an episode not too long ago. Let me tell you what episode that was. Episode 1667, it wasn't that long ago. I told you why I would fail in politics, why I could not be a politician. One of the reasons why I couldn't be a politician is because I can't lie long enough and well enough to be in politics. I can't keep lying for that long. You have to be a liar to be a successful politician in the United States of America, the way that the current system is constituted. The reason that you have to lie is because, first of all, there's no such thing as misinformation or disinformation. You're either telling a lie or you're either telling the truth or you're lying. And politicians can't tell the truth, because the truth means all the factual information complete and in full context. And if you were to give that to most human beings cannot reconcile the fact that everything in life has a trade-off. There are no perfect scenarios. So as soon as you tell them, I'm going to lower your taxes, but at the same time, that means inflation is going to go up, is the real tax. So your taxes are going to be lower, but the cost of everyday goods are going to be higher. Or I can lower inflation, but your taxes are going to be a whole lot higher. Either way, you got to pay more. Either way, it's going to cost you more. If I was to go out on the campaign trail and say that, I wouldn't win any votes. Nobody would like me. Nobody would like me. Therefore, I would never win any elections. Therefore, I would be an unsuccessful politician rather than a successful one. This is one of the main reasons why I can never be in politics, because you got to lie to be a politician. Every politician lies. Democrats lie, the Republicans lie, the people you like lie, the people you hate, they lie. Don't think just the people that you dislike are the only ones lying. They're all lying, because that's the only way they can get your attention, is to lie. If they told you the whole truth, you'd be like, damn, that doesn't sound too exciting. It doesn't sound sexy enough. I can't vote for them. They're not promising me anything. Our politician can't promise you anything in the United States, especially with the government that's $35 trillion in debt. They can't give you anything. They ain't got nothing. I'm pausing there because I want all the voters to hear what I just said. They can't give you anything because they don't have anything. So anything they tell you they're going to give you is going to cost you, because they don't have anything to give you. All right, so they have to lie to you, especially anything that has to do with resources. All right, they're going to build these things that cost money. The government ain't got no money. So who's paying for it? You. Either your taxes are going to pay for it, or they're going to print money to pay for it. And when they print money, The cost of your eggs and your houses and your cars and your insurance and your gas goes up. Either way, you're paying for it. All right, there's no way around it. Does everybody understand this? Now, imagine me getting on a debate stage and saying that. All right, my campaign will be over just as soon as it started. Anyway, let me continue back to my point. As social media became more popular and it started to draw eyeballs away from the networks, the TV shows, and all of those things, in turn, journalists that we used to watch, now they're no longer being paid as much attention to. NBC is like, damn, people aren't watching us as much. They're on Instagram, they're on Twitter, they're on YouTube, they're on TikTok. That's what they're doing now. And NBC wasn't going to just take this lying down. People are now getting their news from internet sites. They were getting their news from blogs instead of NBC. They were getting their news from everyday people like Dre Baldwin instead of CBS. And rather than depending on Fox or NBC to get your information, now you're going to these random people who have, we don't know who they are. We don't know where they came from. We don't know if they ever studied journalism. We don't know if they're telling you the truth or not, but people were getting their information from these people because they were more accessible, they seemed more relatable, and they were putting their material out there for free. So our attention started getting spread out amongst all these other different platforms. This is what started happening. And the big platforms notice this. Again, these people are not dumb. So when I talk about the death of journalism, it didn't happen because these people are not intelligent. These people are very intelligent. I'm just telling you that just because you're intelligent doesn't mean you're going to always make the right decision. I'm going to tell you some wrong decisions that they made. I just told you one was they started trying to compete against social media. I'm in the middle of explaining to you what happened. Once people like me and you, and let's just say as citizens, not as publishers, but as citizens, we started having access to more people, more blogs, more podcasts, more YouTube channels. We no longer were siloed into listening to these 4 or 5 networks tell us what was happening. We used to have NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, CNN. If you wanted news, you had to go to one of those 5 places. And I'm keeping it simple here. I know there are others, but let's just say those 5. All of us got our information from one of those 5 sources. Now, when the internet comes around, and now you got people like Dre Baldwin publishing, Joe Rogan publishing, Tucker Carlson publishing, Megyn Kelly publishing, all these other platforms, a million other people who I'm not naming publishing. Now, each one of us could be getting our information from somebody different. It could be, you put 1,000 people in a room, and all 1,000 of us could be getting information about the same subject from 1,000 different sources. It used to be one of 5 sources. Now it's one of 1,000 sources. And NBC and CBS and Fox said, wait, we can't let this happen. What are we supposed to do? So all these platforms are on the internet. All right. Now, technically, with people having access to more information, and hopefully, more people and more information and those platforms on the internet. Now, technically, what happened is many people started going to these other places, not only for information, but also for entertainment. And they started abandoning the news networks. This is where we started to get, some of you have heard the concept of cord cutting. Some of you don't have a cord cutting meant people start canceling their cable TV subscriptions because everything was on cable TV. You can now get on the internet and all you had to do is pay an internet bill instead of paying for cable as well. You already have the internet and cable. Well, why have cable? Just have internet. All right. In my home, there are no TVs. I do not own a TV. I haven't owned a television in almost a decade. Why? Because anything that I can see on TV, I can see on the internet. What do I need a TV for? And that's just me. I'm not saying you need to not have one, but a lot of people started cutting cords. And cable companies make a lot of money from subscriptions. And when people start dropping subscriptions, they start losing money. And if you want to know what will move a person to take drastic action, start affecting the money that's going in their pockets. They will take drastic action. These platforms were losing money quickly, and they saw what was coming, and they knew they needed to do something. It's not that doing something was a bad idea. It's the something that they chose to do that was a bad idea. Let's continue. These networks, you need to understand, these are big conglomerates. They are big businesses. They have very large staffs, not just the people you see on TV, but every time you see a TV show like NBC News or Dateline or 60 Minutes, these shows, any of you who's ever worked in media, do you know how many people work on the back end of those shows? The people you don't see, the people behind the cameras. You know how many people they have there? They got staff people, they have researchers, they got internals, they have interns rather. They have producers, they have directors, they have showrunners, they have people working the cameras. They got 3 people helping the person who's working the camera. They got editors. They got all these different people out there. They got people answering the phones. They got all these different people working in these places, and all these people have jobs, and to have a job, you got to get paid, right? All right. Any of you listen to this, you got a job, you get paid, right? Or where's that money coming from? Somebody has to pay for that. These companies have huge payrolls. And if people stop watching their shows, what happens is the advertisers, that's where the money comes from on TV, is the advertising. Those are the commercials you see. The advertisers will look at them and say, well, look, you are getting half the viewers now that you were getting 3 years ago. we're only going to pay you half the money. Now, if you were to cut my budget in half, well, I got to cut my staff in half because I can't pay everybody anymore. I'm going to run out of money. So you understand the problem here? You see how this problem is being created? And these companies realize either we're going to have to cut up a bunch of people and or we can't stay in business if things keep going the way that they're going. So we got to do something. So this is what they did. They decided, well, let's start trying to be just like social media. Let's talk to our journalists and tell them, okay, here's the people who are beating us: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You all journalists, you got to start competing against them because we got to try to get attention the way they're getting attention. So let's go play their game and try to beat them at their game. Bad idea. This is what they did. And they're still doing it. Let's go try to beat TikTokers at TikTok. I'm a journalist, but now I'm going to go try to be a TikToker so I can get your attention the way the TikTokers get your attention. This is a bad idea. This is why they failed. But we're just getting started. This is a losing battle for journalists. And it was a losing battle as soon as they decided to get into it. Because the type of stuff that gets posted on social media that I'm talking to you now, that you scroll through and click on and like and comment on and share with your friends, that stuff is not necessarily based in truth, logic, facts, or rational thinking. Is this true? How many of you have gotten a post sent to you via social media, via one of your friends from social media that had nothing to do with truth, logic, facts, or rational thinking? It was actually some silly bullshit, but it was funny. And that's why I got shared. How many of you have ever done that or had it done to you? Of course you have. Understand, it's like journalists trying to compete against social media is like the library trying to compete against the movies. It's a bad idea. That's not a race that you want to get into. It's like tortoise and the hare. I didn't know the story of the tortoise and the hare. If the story of the tortoise and the hare was a real story, then it wouldn't have been a race. It wouldn't even be a book because who the fuck wants to watch a turtle race against a rabbit? It's not going to happen. The turtle ain't winning. All right, in the fairy tale, the turtle wins. In real life, that ain't even a race. All right, the turtle ain't even signed up for that race because it knows it ain't going to win. All right, the journalism industry deciding they were going to try to compete against social media was a terrible idea, and they lost, and they're still losing. And I'm going to tell you, as we get further into this, you'll understand how they're losing and why they're losing. Again, if you ran a library and someone opened a movie theater right next to your library, would you try to compete with the movie theater through your library? No, you would have to try to become the movie theater. It doesn't make sense. That's a losing battle. But this is the battle they decided to get into. That'd be like me trying to compete against a porn website with the content on this show. What sense would that make? All right, I'm not going to win that fight against people who want to see the porn. They're not going to divert their attention over to me, and when their mind is set on watching some porn. All right, I probably shouldn't be in that race. It's a bad race to run. You got to know which fights to fight and which fights not to fight. The journalism industry made a mistake here. And this is where they started to fail. Let's move on to point number 3 because we're not done. Today's topic, once again, is how journalism killed itself. Number 3. Here's the result of what happened. The journalists and the companies that employ these journalists, they started fishing for serving dopamine hits instead of truth and instead of journalism. So here's what you got to understand about journalism and the truth. The truth is not nearly as sexy as the dopamine hit. What is a dopamine hit? The dopamine hit is the positive feeling that you feel when you pick up your phone, you see a little red notification on one of your social media apps that lets you know that there's something you need to open up the app for so you can see. You got a new DM, somebody liked your post, you got a new comment, you got all this engagement on something you posted 3 days ago. That's dopamine, the immediate positive feeling that you feel when you notice that there's a little red light on your text messages. Somebody sent you a text and you got to go open it. The moment that you're going to open it, that's the dopamine hit. Journalism decided they wanted to compete against that. They wanted to compete against the dopamine hits that social media provided. The problem is when you are searching for the truth, there's not a lot of dopamine in the truth. Why? Because first of all, to get to the truth, you have to uncover everything. You got to go through things layer by layer by layer, which means it takes more time. It takes more thinking. It's much more rational, and it's not immediate. It's not like every second you can get another hit of dopamine when you're trying to get to the truth. Now, see, when you're entertaining people, you can get them more entertainment every second. You just keep entertaining. Go, 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 go. Just keep giving them dopamine hits all day, like a drug addict. Just pushing a button. It's like the experiment they did with rats. If the rat pushed the little button, they got a little shot that made them feel good. And the rat eventually would get to the point they would just keep pushing it until they basically killed themselves with the little shot they were giving themselves because they were addicted to the dopamine feeling. This is how human beings use their smartphones. Is this true or not? I'm describing some of you right now. This is how some of you use your smartphones all day, every day. Understand, when I'm telling you the truth, though, you're not getting a dopamine hit every 3 seconds. It might take 30 minutes for me to go through the whole story so I can give you the final truth and the final verdict of what happened. Most human beings, I told you 3 truths about human beings. People don't think, they don't read, and they're lazy. So when you challenge people to give them the truth, it requires them to think, it requires them to read or listen, and it requires mental effort. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is not sexy. The truth is not made for social media. The truth is made for thinking people who want to think. The truth is like going to the library when there's a movie theater next door. How many of you would choose the library instead of the movies? Okay, that's my point. Social media is the movies. The truth is the library. Journalists decided that here we are with this library. We're going to try to make ourselves just as entertaining as social media, and they're losing. They lost and they're still losing. And they're never going to win this game. And this is because their bosses told them to do it. So people who actually work in journalism, if you happen to be a journalist or you're using that title still and you're listening to me right now, I understand your plight. Your bosses told you that this is what you had to do and you didn't have a choice. You want to keep getting your check, you had to do what they told you to do. I get it. This is what happens when you have a job. You got to do what the bosses tell you to do. So journalists who work in the industry and companies who employ them start to try to be like social media. Again, what is social media, folks? We just told you. It's the dopamine hit. The conscious is a small but continuous positive feeling you get when you open up an app and you see that there are new DMs, new comments, new engagements, or some other form of notification. That's the dopamine hit. This is the reason why I tell you turn the notifications off on your phone so you stop being a dope addict, a dopamine addict. Many of you are dopamine addicts. That's why I tell you turn your notifications off so you stop looking for the shit. And yeah, there's going to be some withdrawal symptoms. Deal with it. That little red light on the app on your home screen of your phone is the dopamine. It entices you to open the app so you can see what got said. It tells you there's a prize inside. Remember back in the days, if you're over the age of 30, you remember the cereal boxes back in the days where it said prize inside, and you would open up the cereal box and dig your hand into the cereal box just to get the prize. You weren't even about to eat any cereal. You would just go in there just to get the prize. All right, that's dopamine. That's what it does. The journalism industry is based on people telling the truth, and they're trying to compete against social media, which is not about truth. It's about entertainment. Truth and entertainment shouldn't be competing against each other. But they figured, the journalism industry stupidly figured that they had to try to compete. So they told their journalists and the networks to start trying to serve up dopamine hits to people instead of serving the truth like they're supposed to do. The truth is not full of dopamine. Entertainment is full of dopamine. The truth is not. The problem with all of this is that people started to notice that these networks are no longer dealing in truth. People started to look up and say, wait a minute. You journalists, you're supposed to give me the whole story and the truth of everything. Now you're trying to make 30-second sound bites. Now you're trying to make TikTok videos. All right, now you're trying to give me what used to take you 45 minutes to explain, i.e. the truth, and now you're trying to explain it to me in 45 seconds while stripping out all the details and just coming to a conclusion. And now you're telling me what the conclusion is and not allowing me to think for myself. I don't like this. You're not doing journalism anymore. This is what people started saying about the news networks. You all are not doing journalism anymore. You all are trying to deal in the attention game instead of the truth game. Here's what y'all got to understand. Everybody, understand me very clearly what I'm about to say to you. The journalism industry is about the truth. I told you that already. What is social media about? Social media is about attention. They are not the same thing. If I was to put content on the internet right now today and I decided, you know what I want to get as much attention as possible, my material will be a lot different than what it is. I know what things will draw attention very quickly. I can do some things that can draw a whole lot of attention really quickly. And the material will be a lot different than what you see on the feed of this show. If all I cared about was getting attention. But I said I want to give people the game. And I understand by giving people the game, which sometimes all the time requires me giving you full context. I understand that there are certain people who will never consume what I'm putting out there. And that's why I tell you all the time, this ain't for everybody. I'm not trying to make this for everybody. I wanted to reach the people who want what I'm offering. I'm not trying to meet people where they are looking for dopamine hits and then trying to catch them at that game. I don't want to catch you at that game. That's not the game I want to get in. That's a personal choice. It doesn't make me better or worse than anybody else. It's just a personal choice that I make. You make your own choice about what you want to do if you're putting stuff out there into the world. But understand, the bait that you put out is going to draw a certain type of fish. If you're a female and you advertise yourself by putting your ass out there, you're going to attract people who are interested in that because that's what you advertise. All right? If you advertise something different, you get something different. Social media is about attention. Journalism is about the truth. Which one are journalists playing now? They decide to try to go after attention instead of the truth. They abandon the truth to go after attention. They abandon the truth to chase attention. So social media wants to get your attention and keep it at whatever cost. Let's just keep giving you dopamine hits. Let me just keep entertaining you. Let me give you an example. I'm gonna open up TikTok on my phone right now. Let's just see what comes up. Okay. So I'm open up TikTok, go to my TikTok, and go to my profile, and then we'll go to the home page on TikTok. All right, so first I gotta post my own thing, but I'm gonna scroll up and they keep showing me my own stuff. How do I get to a page where I see other stuff? Okay, so let's see. There's a feed called STEM. I don't know why they're putting this out as the main thing. So I'm gonna go to the For You tab. For You. Okay, this is the tab where a lot of people on TikTok tell me they find me. They find me in the For You tab. So the first thing I see is Governor Ron DeSantis from down here in Florida, and what he is doing is trashing an amendment that will legalize recreational marijuana use. I'm not listening to what he's saying, but that's what the caption says. That's what he's doing, and this has a whole lot of engagement. Next one is her crowd turned on her when Beyonce didn't sing and then shouted, "Donald Trump, what a joke. You can't make this stuff up." And there's laughing faces. So these are people claiming that the crowd got mad when Beyonce didn't perform at the Kamala Harris rally in Houston, Texas, a week before the 2024 election. Next one is, let's see, what is this? Next one is Candace Owens, who is talking about Kamala using Beyonce for her Houston rally ahead of the 2024 election. Again, I'm not listening to what these people are saying. I'm just looking at it. Next one is a person saying something funny about the Beyonce rally for Kamala Harris. So clearly TikTok, for some reason, thinks that I care about this stuff. Next is showing a clip of me. Next is guy BAIGU Uncle. I don't know what the hell this is. I guess this guy's doing a live stream. And it looks like he has a whole bunch of I don't even know what to call this stuff, arts and crafts in the room that he's in. These kind of little toys, these little tchotchke toys that little kids play with, like remote control cars, but his stuff is like wooden arts and crafts. Don't know who this guy is and why they're showing this to me. But anyway, next one is another one of my posts. Next one is another one of my posts. Next one is the Hard Rock, some type of advertisement. Don't know what this is. All right, one more. There's some guy here on TikTok. He is fishing. He's throwing a big fishing net out into the water, and then he pulls back and he pulls a fish out of the water, and now he's holding the fish, and I don't know what the hell this is supposed to be. Anyway, the whole point being, here's one thing you should notice. I went through about 10 of those in about 2 minutes. See, you can't do that with the truth. See, the truth, I need about 20 minutes for one truth. See, there, I got 10 posts in 2 minutes, and I got the gist of each one because they're all short little clips. That's what social media is. And the truth is a different race. The journalism industry entered a fight that it simply couldn't win, and they stupidly kept trying to fight, and they're still losing that fight to this day. Tomorrow we're going to get into what happened next. Before we do that, not before we do that, but now that we've done this, let me recap these points. And it's the first of a 3-part series, How Journalism Killed Itself. And again, I've been trashing journalism for years. I will continue to trash journalism until or unless they make some changes. Today, I'm explaining to you how they got here. Number one, journalism is designed to get to the truth. Anyone calls himself a journalist, their only job is to get to the truth. That is the number one job. Everything else is secondary. Number two, what went wrong is social media got popular and journalists decided that they should start trying to compete. And better stated, the companies that employ journalists told them that they should start trying to compete because these companies are trying to stay in business and keep their money. And they were losing money because eyeballs were leaving the TV networks, and instead, looking at social media, they decided to get into competition with social media, which was a bad idea. Number three, the result is they started fishing for serving dopamine hits instead of serving the truth and serving journalism like they're supposed to be. In other words, they are like the library trying to compete against the movie theater, or a library trying to compete against a strip club. It's not going to happen. Some people want to go to the strip club. Some people want to go to the library. Don't try to compete with them for their customers because their customers are their customers for a reason. All right, they're looking for a certain thing that you ain't got. Anyway, tomorrow I'm going to get into the second part of how this happened and how it affects you directly. Make sure between now and then you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, get started inside the university where you're going to have me as your direct coach, get access to all of our trainings, all of our courses, and my live coaching calls with me directly with you. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all